Hello and welcome to Season 1, Episode 7 of Conversations with Vijeet, wherein I talk with batchmates of mine who pursued MBA in Sports Management from Deakin University, Melbourne in the years 2015 to 18. For this episode, I have got Shankar Menon with me as my guest, who is joining me from Australia. Shankar, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hey, Vijeet. I'm good, thank you, and thanks for the invite to be part of this show. I've been watching the other episodes as well, so yeah, it's good to see what our batchmates and just batches just before myself have been doing since their time in Australia and in Deakin. So yeah,
Yeah.
good on you to keep doing this. It's actually, I think it's a very good initiative, and yeah, it's good for our own batchmates and future students to actually know what it's like studying something in sports. So yeah,
Yeah.
good on you, and yeah, thank you for the invite once again. So
Thanks, my pleasure. So, Shankar, one thing that I know of you is you're currently in Wangaratta. Now, just tell us where Wangaratta is.
yes, yeah, more than happy to do that. So Wangaratta is it's a regional town in Victoria. So Victoria is the
Okay.
state. I'm specifically saying state because I've had this issue where I've tried to explain the geography to my friends back home in India, and they think it just comes across. Melbourne is like the place people know. So if you say
Yeah.
Victoria, people just get lost. So I just try to explain that Victoria is the state and Melbourne is the city, and then you've got different towns. So and one of the regional towns is Wangaratta. So that is about 3.5 hours from Deakin University in the Burwood campus. So it's
Okay.
about 300 kilometers from there. So towards Sydney, if people are traveling towards Sydney on the Hume Freeway from Deakin, yeah, so it comes about 300 kilometers from Deakin. So yeah, towards north. It is
No, yeah.
basically northeast of Victoria.
Right. So
Yeah,
what you're
yeah,
doing there, we'll come to that later. So I'll
yeah.
start from the beginning. So first up, Shankar, why did you choose to do sports management and why did you choose Deakin? And you can also throw some light on what you were doing before it.
Great. Yeah. I'm more than happy to do that because you would know, Vijit. We are the same age, so um, well, almost the same age. So it's back home. I was a software engineer, which is 9 out of 10 times what we do, at least in our sort of age bracket. That's
Yeah.
what you either become a lawyer or a engineer or a doctor. That's about it. Anything else apart from those three is considered as no future. So I was actually I was very fortunate because my parents and my sister, they were very supportive of me to choose a different career from software, which is IT
Right.
industry, because
Hmm.
I did my engineering and then I got a pretty good job in L&T Infotech.
Right.
And I was there for about six years in Mumbai, doing
Okay.
software stuff. But the good thing was, well, I had initial plans of doing an MBA degree, but at the time, after graduation, after engineering, I wanted to do MBA, but then my thinking at the time was I'll get 2 years of work experience and then use that experience and then go and do a master's MBA degree.
Yeah.
uh, where what all those things weren't in my thought process at the time, because you just completed your graduation, your bachelor's degree, and then you got a job. So based on what happens after 2 years, nobody can predict. So
Yeah.
I thought I'll go with the flow, and then based on where I am at in terms of my work and whatnot and what my interest is at the time, I thought I'll make a decision on what sort of MBA I wanted to do.
Okay.
So that's how that's where I was. This was 2010-11 time, and then after that, okay, I started working in L&T, and then the 2 years actually became six. so instead of going into an MBA degree after 2 years, the 2 years I got dragged on and on and on, and then by the time I actually made a decision to actually step away and move on, um, it became 6 years or very close to 6 years.
Right.
So then, so during that time, so once I think it was 2000, maybe end of 2014 or early 2015 when I actually started thinking about what sort of MBA I wanted to do. And obviously, our sort of Indian culture, you would know this as well, our Indian culture. So I was having a chat with my parents as well, especially my dad, as to what I wanted to do, going forward. And obviously, age was not on my side at the time as well, because you're getting older every year, every day, every second. So if I, it was very clear from my parents' perspective as well that if I wanted to go and study, that probably was the right sort of time.
Yeah.
Because anything further than that, then 2 years of study and then everything else gets delayed, settling down and whatnot.
Right.
So that was the time. And then the good thing was I was always passionate about sport. I know this is a very common phrase that you would have heard. I have heard. If people want to study sports management, you ask them the question, why do you want to do sports management? Everyone says, I'm passionate about sport. But then that's a very common thing. During school or college times, 9 out of 10 people, it could be boy or a girl, would be participating in some sort of sport. So that doesn't mean that it's the passion.
Okay.
At least in my opinion, I don't think that means that it is passion.
Okay.
For me, passion is something which somebody does without expecting anything in return. Basically, if you are volunteering your time to do something,
Yeah.
I would say you are really interested in doing that.
Right. That's a good point.
I will get to that because if you are really interested in doing that, you would not expect any financial side to it. You would just do it.
Yeah. True.
Whatever it is. So for me, sport is something like that, has been since my childhood. Because a very good example that I can give is when I was in Mumbai. You are from Maharashtra yourself, so you would know how Mumbai is. And I used to travel like 2 hours one way to go and play football. Like, so that's just, and I'm not expecting anything in return. Like, whatever league it was, whatever level it was, I was not expecting anything in return from the club or the association or anyone. I was just spending my own time and effort, my money, to go there for training and be with the group, with the team. So I was always interested in sport. So taking school and college aside, which I feel a lot of people would be involved in sport. This next step for me was when I was in L&T, during my IT time. I was also very heavily involved in sport, because we had annual sort of sports gala day, not gala day as such, gala sports month sort of thing, or sport months, which is usually between end of January till end of April. So you have roughly about 3 months. So February, March, April. So roughly 3 months where we used to organize. It's like a corporate sort of tournaments, and it be multi-sport. So when I started off in L&T, I was looking for what sort of opportunities are there to be involved in sport while working as well. And the good thing at the time was we had a very good group of people. It was not as a department as such. Again, people volunteering their time on top of being a IT engineer or a software engineer, to put together sporting events every year for 3 months. During those 3 months, the February to April time, for the staff to be involved.
Right.
So that was that was something really that fascinated me, because obviously, again, like I said, I'm going back to the volunteering bit, because all these people are volunteers. They're not doing this, although it takes a lot of effort, because it's basically sports management, sports event.
Yeah.
You're doing for a 3 month, over a 3 month period. And all these people are doing it on top of their IT work. So I got involved in that just because of my interest into sport. And I think by 2012 or maybe early 2013, I was sort of one of the head of that department, which actually looked into. So it was not called as a head of department as such, because it was not a department. We just needed approval from the organization, from the HR and finance teams to run these things. But then it was more like the sport and cultural sort of department. So I was not cultural, but sport and recreation sort of department where
Mhm.
during those for those 3 months we actually run different sports. So we had sports like box cricket, which is
Yeah.
I don't know for our I don't know who the audience would be in this, but box cricket is like your indoor cricket if you're in Australia or any other foreign countries apart from India. So box cricket is a very common thing.
Yeah.
It's an outdoor version of your indoor cricket that you
Yeah.
see
In
in. So
India,
we
in
got
India,
two runs.
it's in the outdoor form. So
Yes.
I think you would not know because you haven't been to India for a long time now. But there are
Yeah.
many box cricket facilities that have come up, and most of them are, I think,
Uh,
almost all of them are outdoor ones. Yeah.
yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, in
So we
India,
had
it's
box
outdoor.
cricket
Yeah.
there. Yes. So the we had box cricket, which was the most in demand because cricket is massive in India. So we had box cricket. We had football, which is soccer, because I keep telling football because it is good football for me. But because I'm in Australia, I will use the term soccer as well. Then we've had volleyball. Then we've
Hmm.
had throwball. Throwball was specific for women because
Okay.
we had most participation and most sort of interest from the female perspective in throwball.
Right.
So that was for them specifically, and then eventually it started coming into the male side of it as well, which is vice versa in cricket and football, because we started off with the males because
Hmm.
that's where the interest was, and then slowly we started making it mixed box cricket where you had to have at least two females in the team, like they have
Okay.
to bowl overs, and we put rules in place that they have to be involved throughout the game. So that was my start getting into sports management. So this was all voluntary. So I was sort of like
Hmm.
myself and a couple of other really good mates from work from L&T at the time. So we were sort of like the leads or the go-to people
Yeah.
for any sport. So people just like all the staff used to come and ask us when it's January, like when's the tournament starting. So we had to look at all the things that we studied when we were at Deakin, like in terms of sporting events and facility management, and athlete management wasn't there, but broadcasting was there. Um, then sports law. Well, when I say law, just in terms of we had to stick to the organization's, rules and regulations
Right.
in
Hmm.
terms of the like in not as the cricket rules as such, but we were using L&T's facility to run the
Okay.
show. So
Hmm.
we
Yeah.
had to go by their policies, and we had to make sure everything was adhered to based on their law. So we had to sort of understand
Hmm.
what policies we could use, what we couldn't do, and things like that. So just relating that to the sports context, I would put the term sports law there, although it's not entirely sports law. So
Yeah.
that was my introduction to sports management as such. Even, and,
Right.
and all of this happened even without me even realizing that this is in itself an industry.
Hmm.
So I was doing that, and like I said, again, going back to the initial point, I was volunteering. It's just all volunteering my time there. So you have your 8-hour work day, and then on top of that, or during those 8 hours, because this happens after 5 o'clock when more majority of the staff finish work. So the time frame was from 5:30 till 7:30 or 7:45. So that's where we could fit in all the games based on the
Hmm.
fixtures and whatnot,
Yeah.
or what sport it is. So I had to sit extra hours just so that I was making up time, because during those 2 to 3 hours I had to be at the grounds where the matches were happening. So I had to be there. So I used to, if my shift was finishing at 6 o'clock, I used to sit maybe till 9 o'clock, because till about 7:30 I'm there, coordinating and organizing the sports, whatever the matches were.
Hmm.
So, and after that, yeah, obviously, just so that my bosses should not feel that I'm doing sports stuff. On an 8-hour shift, 2 to 3 hours I'm at the sports, the sports facility or sports venue, and
Yeah.
then I'm just clocking off or logging off at my normal end time. So I used to spend extra hours sitting, and obviously you don't get paid those extra hours um, for doing that. So this is why I again related back to I was doing that without expecting anything in return, because I was not
Right.
expecting to
Hmm.
get paid I was not expecting to get paid to do those do those events during those 3 months over the course of those 5 years. Because 6th year I didn't do it because I came to Australia, so I was not involved in the organizing side of things. So over a 4 to 5 year period, when we were running all those events, I was doing it all for free, spending my time, my effort, my money, not as much because we had the approval from the organization to run the thing. So you had the funds coming in as well. So all the budgeting, you had to do the budgets as to what equipment you needed and all. So everything that we studied was actually being done by myself and our team,
Right.
like 3 or 4 of us, as to put together 3 months of sports for the staff, which is basically a team building activity for as far as the organization is concerned. Um, and there is these days, significant scientific data there that show that staff productivity increases when there is a lot of team building activities and there is something extra that's more relaxed where the staff interact with each other in a more relaxed sort of state. So again, the volunteering, I'm stressing on this because a lot of the things that I have done have been voluntary. I've not expected financial returns. So everything that I've done has been just because of my interest. And that's why when I say passion, it actually is a passion, because I don't expect, I want to give back what I missed out on. But then at the same time, it doesn't really bother me if I don't get the financial benefits of it. So because I'm happy to give my time and effort to it. So that's when I got introduced to sports management. I know the answer's been long, but I thought I had to put the story together so that we understand the context and where things come from. So from there, over the course of 3-4 years, when I started making the decision as to what sort of MBA I wanted to do, I didn't even know that sports management was a thing. So I just searched on Google, just like all of us. We just searched sports management, and a lot of things actually did come up. That's when I understood, oh, that's an industry in itself. There is a course in itself. And then when I started having my conversations with my parents, I obviously told my dad. Obviously, they knew how interested I was in sport and how involved I was in sport, obviously from my childhood. So they were all encouraging, very much encouraging in terms of for me to pursue what I wanted to do. So at the time, all they asked me to do was, because obviously no one in my family, or probably in my school, or I would even say very, very, very few people from Kerala at least knew about sports management at the time. And I would be one of the first few people who actually did sports management. Or who decided to do sports management. And I'm saying Kerala, the whole, because if it was something big at the time, it would have been, the word of mouth would have been made. But no, my dad's contacts didn't know anything about it. My mom's contacts didn't know anything about it. My school friends, no one knew about what sport management was. So from there, the only thing my parents asked me to do was just do a bit of research as to try and understand what it's like. And from there it all kicked off, and then I did the research, and obviously I found Deakin. And the reason I picked Deakin was very simple, because my first choice was always England because of football and my passion and interest in football or soccer. But obviously at the time, I think the Brexit thing was going on over there in Europe. So that I didn't even have a look at what the options were in Europe, because of Brexit and what was happening. That clarity wasn't there. And same thing, I think, very similar situation in the US as well, with the new leaders coming in place, and all the immigration issues that was happening in the US. So those two were already cancelled out. The only other option was Australia. So, and Melbourne being, I think in one of the other episodes, one of the other guest speakers, I think it was Akshay, he did mention Melbourne was a sporting capital as well. And Melbourne was I don't know if Melbourne's still the sporting capital of the world, but at the time, I think 5 or 6 years in a row, they were sporting capital of the world, Melbourne. So it was a fairly easy decision, and Deakin was the only place I applied. In terms of, I didn't apply anywhere else, and got the got the offer letter, and then from there it all kicked off. So yeah, very long answer for a first question.
No worries, no worries. So, uh, tell us about like your when you landed up in Australia. How did you find the university, and how did you find the course overall in the next 2 years? And I think you started in July 2016, if I'm not wrong.
Correct.
Yeah, so you came in winter. So I think then you must have finished the course in July 2018.
Yes, correct.
Right. So yeah, it took you two years to complete it. And so just tell us about the whole experience in those 2 years about doing the course.
Yeah. So 2016, like you mentioned. So 2000, like I think I did mention this. So late 2014, early 2015, that's when I started applying, or going through the process of the what do you call the application process and everything.
Yeah.
And I think because you had to write your English exam, which is the IELTS or
Yeah.
PTE. So I wrote IELTS. So everything combined, and then I think it took about 5 to 6 months overall to go through the IELTS exam and then get the visas and everything sorted. And it was fairly easy because I applied everything by myself, apart from the visa process, the last bit, which obviously I went through a visa agent. But application to the university was fairly easy and straightforward because all the documents they asked were fairly straightforward because it's school and my bachelor's documents, so it was fairly easy. At least for me, it was fairly easy at the time. And then once I was here, the 2 years I enjoyed the course because, again, because I had that exposure to sports events and sports management, although it was without me actually realizing that's an industry in itself. I actually enjoyed the course because I was expecting something very similar. And that's one thing I think I've found different from, or I've heard different from a lot of the others. Not anyone from the people you have interviewed, but like my batchmates at the time and stuff like that. That they expected the course to be like, people, the university putting them in touch with a professional club straight away, and then they just kick on from there. Which I think would be a common thing you might have heard as well. People actually thought that they're going to work with Cricket Australia, Tennis Australia, all the big shots.
Big organizations.
Yes, but that's where I think a lot of the students sort of misinterpreted what the course was, and they didn't have that understanding as to sports management. It could be very simple sport, but then all the things that happens behind the scene is what is sports management. What they see on the TV is just the last bit. That's just tip of the iceberg.
Right.
What all the work that goes in behind the scenes to get a one-day cricket or a football match in place, what they see on TV, that's actually sports management. So I think that's where a lot of the students found it difficult. But for me, I was expecting what the course actually delivered. So I actually enjoyed the course. When I say enjoyed, obviously I'm not one of those people who would go on and say I attended all the classes and had 100% attendance and whatnot. Probably attended the least amount of classes in my batch as well. But the online mode of studies and all the support that was given through yourself. Rama was there, another friend of ours. There's a couple other friends from my batch as well, and obviously the professors and all the lecturers from the university. I think, at least for me, they were very helpful, and I didn't have any problems with the course as such. So I enjoyed it.
Okay, right. And anything about the academics? How did you find the academics and the whole experience?
Yes. So with the so my with the course, like I said, because I had that exposure to the industry, although in a smaller scale, and an not non-commercial scale, I would say that. because it was definitely not a small scale, because the number of people in India, all the events, all the sporting events had about 500 people. So like in terms of number of teams registered, we had 500 people for each sport. So so for me, I enjoyed the course because I enjoy athlete management, because I enjoy talking to the athletes and working with athletes, because my work is basically to give back what I missed out. And having played, I've played national tennis tournaments. I'm also a you know this. I'm also a state. I'm a black belt in karate as well. So I used to participate in state championships in karate, and in football, which I've been speaking about a lot. So I've played at fairly high level. Obviously not professional, because the opportunities and the facilities, infrastructure weren't there at the time. But I've played a fairly high level of football as well, so which I'm carrying on even now, which is again passion. But again, so because of that, and then because of my exposure to the industry when I was in L&T, I think my favorite subjects were athlete management, which I enjoyed a fair bit, a lot. Then I enjoyed facility management, which is again about understanding different facilities, how you can create a sport at any facility, and how that can be made into a business. Then I enjoyed sports law, and broadcast. I did enjoy sports broadcasting, but then I'm not the biggest fan of media myself, whatever media it is. So because of just the way how media comes about things, and how they portray the story. But as a subject, I really enjoyed that subject as well. So those were probably the highlights of my 2 years, I would say.
Would you suggest someone to do a sports management course, and like be it anywhere at Deakin or anywhere else?
Yes, well, it's a yes and no, because yes only, and I've had the same question asked to me by a few others who wanted to study sports management from back home, through my dad's contacts. So I've made it very clear to them that that it's not, sports management is not something where you expect to just work with a big organization straight away. It's all so it's I'm just going, I know I might be repeating myself, but I want people listening to this, I don't want them to go home and say I want to do sports management, but then they make that decision and then they come to a university and they think, oh, this is not the course, or this is not what I expected. I know a lot of people who came and studied in Deakin who thought it's about coaching, and it's about working with a club, and working with professional players. So I would definitely recommend people, if they are really keen to do sports management, go through whatever university you're applying for. They usually, the universities will have their what do you call the course structure, and what sort of subjects they offer. Go through those subjects. Go through some of the not modules as such, but then you might get a rough idea as to what the subjects are. Just maybe do a little bit of Google research as to what those subjects mean and what the university offers as such. And then yes, we can say, cool, okay, if you want to do it, go ahead and do it. But then if not, there's no, just because you've played a bit of sports back in school or at your bachelor's degree, there's no need to actually go and do sports management. You can do a lot of other MBA stuff and still get exposure to the sports industry. But having said that, it's a more difficult path, because I've seen a lot of more recently, especially after COVID, or from 2019 2020 time, just before COVID time, a lot of job applications that I've seen have that one liner which says a sports management degree is preferred. So although it's not it's highly desirable, but not essential. Even if you don't have a sports management degree, you can apply for those jobs. But then if the two of us, I'll take our example, if the two of us are applying for the same job and we've got similar sort of work experience in terms of number of years. If you've got a sports management degree, I don't have one, it's more likely that the organization will choose your application for the interview than mine, because you've got that little bit of extra which is sports specific.
Correct.
So you don't have to go and study sports management degree. You can still apply for the similar sort of jobs. But having said that, it might be a slightly more difficult path to get into the industry, because these days people are becoming more specific. They are looking for people who have studied sports specific subjects or degrees.
Correct.
So it's a yes and no for me. For me, if personally, if it's someone like myself who is really keen on studying and being involved with sports, then definitely go ahead. But then it's got nothing to do with professional sporting clubs or sporting players and whatnot, at least in the initial stages of the career.
It won't be a fancy kind of a thing when you start off. So you'll have to go through the grassroots probably, and maybe if you're lucky, you can straight away get into a big organization and get exposure to all the stars that you see on the screen as well. Who knows?
Yeah, 100%. I 100% agree there, and I would second everything that you said there, because that's the side I think a lot of students or people aspiring to become sports managers miss out on, because they just see, okay, sports industry, I want to work with, because we are Indians, I want to work with Virat Kohli, I want to work with Rohit Sharma, I want to work with Rahul Dravid. They don't see that to get there's like 10 or 100 steps from ground level to reach that level. And you did mention that sometimes you might be very lucky or very fortunate that you get that opportunity, but that percentage is very, very less.
Very low. Correct. So Shankar, next up, you told me about the course, how the course was for you, and what part-time work did you do along with the course at that time?
It's actually a good question, Vijeet, because again, I'll have to relate a little bit to the previous question in terms of people wanting to do sports management or not. Not just in Australia, I think it's across the world as well, in different, like US or UK, wherever you go. If you want to get that first step after your studies in the sports industry, I definitely do believe, and I would definitely encourage, students or listeners to actually be looking out for, could be voluntary work, it could be like work experience within the industry, whatever you're looking to study. If it's sports management or sports science or something else, whatever you're looking to study from a foreign university, if you can try and find during your study period, if you can try and find some sort of work experience related to what you're studying, I think that's where the key is, or key difference is. And well, that is one key. I would say there is also a very big aspect to it. A lot of the students do look and wait for experiences that pay as well. And this is again going to my very first point. If you're really keen and passionate about making it in the sports industry, you might have to struggle and be patient with just getting volunteer work or internships that are not paid, or minimum payments.
So in that case, I would say, when you're saying that you might have to not look at the financial side of it, maybe you're like in terms of returns from whatever you're doing, maybe you have to go for unpaid work. But in that case, what happens with most of them, like many people, they have taken loans to come to the course, and they need to like pay off their bills when they're living there. So how would they balance it out that in that case, like if you're looking for only unpaid work, or because it's not easy to get paid work over there. That's what I found as well in sports. That's what I'm talking about. So how would you like tell them like how to balance those things?
Yes, so I was just getting there. Sorry, because
no
I had taken loan as well. to come and study or go to come to Australia and study in an Australian university. So definitely it was again a student loan, which a lot of the students might take, especially if you're coming from India or the subcontinent area. So when what I meant by unpaid work, I didn't mean do only unpaid work, but definitely along with, if you get work in something else where you're getting paid fairly well, I would definitely encourage the students to look out for other opportunities where there is definite engagement with a sporting organization in some capacity during those study period.
Okay.
So for me, I was fortunate that I was not, yes, fortunate, yes, but at the same time, I was very persistent, and very clear in my own head that I will work only in sport. That's just me. So I was working as a tennis coach. I was working as a football coach or soccer coach. I was working as a soccer referee. I was working as a futsal referee. I was also working as a cricket umpire during the cricket season. That's the only work. I did a little bit of volleyball umpiring as well, but that's the only work that I did in terms of payment.
Okay.
And that probably came because I had the exposure during my time at L&T, because while I was also the coordinator and organizer for the sporting events, it was one of myself or one of my team members within the organizing group who used to be the cricket umpires or the football referees. So we were well versed in terms of refereeing or umpiring, depending on what sport it is. So that actually gave me a little bit more options in terms of what sort of work I could do, or I could actually reach out to other sports as well, sporting courts when I was looking for work. And obviously all of them were part-time work as well. And just a little bit on this, let's say somebody who's doing sports management, they're looking for work, and they get a work in the hospitality industry or like a retail industry. That's totally fine, but I would still encourage them to go and do, if possible, go and look for work which is in terms of umpiring or refereeing in different sports, because the money that they might earn doing 20 hours of work, which is 20 hours is our work limit in Australia, per week. So the money that they might earn doing a 20-hour shift in 1 week, they might be able to make it just by doing like a few games. Because I used to do and I didn't do top level league umpiring or refereeing and stuff. I just did school-based stuff, school-based refereeing, school-based umpiring, mostly, and you get paid for the game. So if you do 10 games throughout the week, you get paid a fair bit. And 10 games would not be a 90-minute game. In terms of football, it will not be a 90-minute game because it's school-based. You're looking at a game which is like 30-minute halves, so 1 hour game with a 10-minute break in between. So if you do 10 hours, you're making way more than what you would in a retail industry working for 20 hours. So opportunity would be there. So it's just a matter of, again, I totally understand with the loans and whatnot, because I had loans myself as well. But yeah, for me individually and personally, I was very clear that I will work only in sport, be it 10 hours a week or 15 hours or 20 hours a week. And that's where I worked in multiple sporting codes. And the only, like I said, the only work that I carried out was, umpiring in different sporting codes and coaching different sporting codes. And obviously those were sports that I was involved with, because tennis, I was involved in national tournaments. So I was aware of the game, but coaching side I was not. But that was an opportunity for me to learn and a bit more about tennis and how to handle people and, teach people the game or the sport. And same with football as well, because I've played and I've had the experience. So it was easier on that front. So if someone is not involved in any sport as such, but they're just interested to be part of sport in whatever capacity, in another capacity, there's still options where it could be an umpire or could be an admin. Well, admin side of things becomes the difficult job, to find when you're
Mm.
studying. But in terms of school umpiring or school level coaching, or like little ones, coaching the very, very little ones, those jobs, if you have that a fair understanding or fair grasp of the sport, I think most people would be able to do that. You
Right.
wouldn't have to go and coach a 15-16-year-old or above.
Mhm.
You can start with 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. It's very, very basic. So if you have a decent understanding of the sport, that opportunity also is there.
Okay. Right. That's a good option actually. Yeah. All right. So, Shankar, next up, tell us about your professional journey, right from completing the course till now, like what you have done so far.
Yes, and again, that's a good question as well, because there is a good story to tell there. Because um, you would know this because we are friends. So I came here in 2016 to Melbourne, and I did not travel back to India till very recently, like this year.
Yeah.
So 7 years. It took me 7 years to actually go back and meet my family and relatives and all my loved ones. So 7 years I was in Australia. I had never went back. So that is a very long time.
Yes, actually.
And so I never traveled back. So I was very particular about or very clear as to what I wanted to do in terms of my sporting career and sporting journey. So I think that has helped me a lot in my professional journey as well in the sporting industry. So 2016 June, end of June I came here. July the semester started or trimester started, and 2018 I think May or end of mid-June the semester finished. So 2 years finished, and then it took me 1 year to actually land my first full-time job. And this is in spite of me working only in sport. I've done a lot of volunteering
Yeah.
on top of the work. I volunteered with Tennis Australia. I worked at Tennis Australia's Australian Open. I volunteered with the MotoGP. I volunteered with Formula One. I volunteered with swimming. I volunteered at cycling. I volunteered at some of the footy games. Footy is the Australian football games. So I've actually volunteered a fair bit of time as well, because all these sports. I probably shouldn't say this, but because I'm working in AFL now. But apart from AFL, which was a new sport to me, all the other sport I was very much interested in. And I swim. I'm very much keen on the motorsport, Formula One, MotoGP, tennis. I've played. So all these things I've volunteered a lot of my time without expecting anything in return, because I just want to be involved and get that experience and exposure. So in spite of that and my sporting work, which was mostly on the refereeing and coaching side of things, it took me 1 year to actually land a full-time job after studies. So that was a difficult period. And this is again another message I'd like to pass on to students, because it's not easy. It's definitely not going to be easy, just like any other industry. Getting that first job will be difficult. Sometimes you might be very lucky and then very fortunate, you might get the job, but then most of the times it takes a while to actually find the first job and then progress through your career. So it took me I started applying for a lot of jobs after graduation, and did give fair few interviews and stuff. But my first job, fortunately, again, I landed my first job in football, which is Football West. It's a state sporting association. It's like
Soccer.
Football Australia. Soccer, correct. Soccer, yes, soccer. So just like how we have BCCI in India or AIFF in India, which is the national body, Football Australia is the national body over here for football, which is soccer. And I was fortunate enough to get a role with Western Australia, the Western Australian State Sporting Association of Football Australia, which is called as Football West. So I was with them for about 6 months, which was a 6 months contract. And that was the first job. So Western Australia, if people don't know, that's on the other side of the country, other side of Australia. It's like traveling from Kerala to Delhi or Jammu. So it's like a 3-4 hour sort of
Yeah.
flight on the other side of the country. So because it was only a 6 months contract, so I had a chat with a couple of my professors at the time as well, and they suggested that the first one's the most difficult one to get. So although it's only 6 months, they actually encouraged me to go and take up that job. And because it was football, I was very keen on taking the job.
Hmm.
Yeah, the only question mark was whether they would extend it for beyond the 6 month period. But
Right.
anyway, I made that decision. I went to Football West, and yeah, after the 6 months, because all my documents and all the licenses and everything were from Victoria, so I just had to come back to Victoria after the 6 months,
Hmm.
and another good opportunity presented in Victoria, which was so I was working as a before coming back to Victoria in Football West. I worked as a football development officer. So
Okay.
football as in soccer development officer.
Hmm.
So where I was working with clubs and players and coaches, trying to develop the game, in Western Australia. So that was a very good role, and because of my interest and involvement in football, it was very rewarding as well. And from there, I started looking at the next jobs, and I got a similar sort of role, but this was wider. This was all sports. So we've got something called as regional sports assemblies in Victoria, which is basically yeah, organizations within regional Victoria that look after sporting clubs in the regional landscape.
Hmm.
So from Football West, yeah, I got a very similar sort of role, but this was a very broad role, all sports included. So, and my
Okay.
role was a sports and recreation development officer. So the other one, the Football West one, was football development officer. This was sport and recreation development officer for northeast of Victoria.
Okay.
And so and that's how I landed in Wangaratta. So just to go back to your very first question about Wangaratta, that's how from Perth I came to Wangaratta, which is a regional town. And it was not planned. I was just looking for different jobs, and this opportunity presented, and I put in my application and got the job. And the job as such, a lot of people probably wouldn't know what state sporting associations like Football West or Tennis Australia, Tennis Victoria, or Cricket Victoria would do. The
Hmm.
exact same role is what the regional sports assemblies would do, apart from the final delivery of the product, because we are in a regional sports assembly, because it's all sports. You work with
Hmm.
all sporting codes
Yeah.
in the region. The delivery aspect is where we used to take a step back, because you don't expect me to deliver. If I'm the um, sport and recreation development officer at in Northeast Victoria, you can't expect me to deliver football or soccer and AFL and tennis and cricket and everything. So that's where
Hmm.
that small difference comes in between regional sports assemblies and a state sporting association. But we worked with Tennis Victoria or Football Victoria, Cricket Victoria, all those regional, all those state sporting associations in Victoria. We worked together with them to develop the sporting landscape within
Hmm.
northeast of Victoria. That was my role, and I was there for about almost 3.5 years
Okay.
in
Hmm.
that role. Yeah. Uh, and this was during COVID. So fortunately, during COVID, I was able to keep that role.
Hmm.
And it was, the organization was, because it's funded by the government, was still, going as normal, which was again fortunate. And then from there, after like early this year, I think it was April, yeah, first weekend of the AFL season, I got an opportunity which presented as a region operations manager for AFL, which is Australian Football League, and their northeast borders organization, which is again similar to a state sporting association, but northeast has got, so within the Victorian landscape, AFL has got 9 regional administration centers, which is spread across 9 regional areas in Victoria. So in the northeast of Victoria, we've got something called as AFL Northeast Border, which is the northeast of Victoria. So I'm the so it's basically for northeast region.
Correct.
So I'm this region operations manager for AFL Northeast Border, and we cater to 7 leagues. We offer services to 7 different leagues, which is 4 senior men's league, 1 female league, which is again senior league, open age, and then we've got 2 junior leagues as well.
Right.
So so 7 leagues we service in the region, which is massive. And for people who don't know what AFL is probably one of the biggest sport in Australia, in Australian landscape, in terms of infrastructure and in terms of funding and whatnot, in terms of the support and pathways and opportunities as a sporting career for a player and a coach. It's definitely one of the biggest sport in Australia. So that's where I'm currently working.
Yeah, and it is huge in Victoria, right? And since you're based out of there, you must have seen it, like even in the regional areas. I guess it's quite big.
Oh, it's massive. So just to touch base on the how big AFL is in Australia. Victoria in particular, they've got 20 teams or 18 teams, sorry, of which I think apart from a couple of teams from Western Australia and a couple of teams from the other states, there's about 80% of the full league comprises of teams from Victoria.
So 10 out of 18 are from Victoria, and out of those even 10, 9 are from Melbourne. So that's how it is.
Yes.
That's
so
how
it's
big.
a massive.
It's more than 50%.
It's massive. Yes.
So Shankar, since you're based out of Victoria, you've been working in regional Victoria for some years now. So how would you rate or how would you say, like, what kind of opportunities one would have when it comes to sports and recreation there? And are there enough for someone to even look to go there and find it, and probably also live there for some years? How is the whole experience over there?
So see, that's one of the big challenges in regional, I wouldn't say just regional Victoria, throughout regional Australia, because sport is very specific to your metro regions. If you look at it, you've got Melbourne, you've got Sydney, you've got all Brisbane, Adelaide, then Perth, all the big cities is where sport is like narrowed down to. So that's where Australia, being so big, so massive country, such a big country, the governing bodies or the sporting bodies find it difficult to actually find people who can develop the sport in regional Australia. So me being in regional Victoria, I can clearly say that the opportunities are there, but if we try to compare that with Melbourne or a big city, it's nothing.
Okay.
It's minimum opportunities.
Okay.
Yes, I've got to be honest here. So if you just on a scale, if we say Melbourne has got 100 opportunities, in regional Victoria, the opportunities would be between 1 and 5. So
really?
it's less. Definitely, yes.
Okay.
Because in Wangaratta, so I'm in the northeast of Victoria. So in my previous role, or even in my current role, the region that we cover in terms of the leagues that we service covers 5, maybe 6 council areas. So council areas is like your panchayat or town, like how we got in India. So that's like, not panchayat, it'll be like township, your
town, tehsil,
each town,
tehsil is what they call it.
Yes. So but because the country is so big, if you have 5 different councils or 6 different councils, the area that it covers is a massive area. So in terms of opportunities, each council will have at least one sport and recreation officer. So that is an opportunity there, because councils have to have that, because you got because community sport is massive in regional Victoria. I would say regional Australia as well. community sport is massive because sport plays a massive role in the community. It's considered as a gathering day or a gathering weekend. It's a family time. When you have community sport, the weekend, the families go to watch their friends play or relatives play,
Yeah,
or their
right.
kids play,
Hmm.
and then it's just a massive sort of event that happens on the Saturday or the Sunday,
Hmm.
whichever sport it is.
Right.
So it's not just the 1 hour or 2 hour of sport that is there, but the whole experience of the community comes into play, and sport is a massive thing in regional Australia or regional Victoria. So each council has a um, sport and recreation officer. The title could be different, but then they have to
Hmm.
have, because it's in Wangaratta. I know there are 2 or 3 people who they keep changing depending on the funding that they get. But there are definitely 2. I think now they have got a part-time third person who is a part-time as well, who work with clubs just in Wangaratta.
Okay.
So my role, my previous role, I was working with 5 different councils. So
Hmm.
that's a massive area. And then current role as well, it's 5 or 6 that we cover in total.
Right. Okay.
So opportunity wise, it's
Hmm.
definitely less. But if you pick the right moments, and if you keep an eye out for opportunities will be there, because not all the sporting associations, state sporting associations, will have a regional development officer, because I know, but the big sports will have more than likely, because I know there is tennis regional officer or regional coordinator. There is a football, which is soccer regional coordinator is there. AFL, obviously, they have an organization as well, which is where I am working,
Hmm.
because it's the biggest one. Tennis I already mentioned. So all the big sports, cricket also has an association here, so where there will be a cricket officer as well. So all the big sports more than likely will have a regional role within
Right.
regional Victoria. So
Hmm.
I'm just talking from a Northeast Victoria perspective. So
Hmm.
so if you go around regional Victoria, each region might have opportunity there as well, in terms of the bigger sports having a regional officer. So that those sort of roles will come up, then progressing based on how big the sport is and how big the regional town is and how big the service area is. There might be opportunities for not just the regional coordinator, it might grow into a regional manager role. Again, depending, all this will take time. I'm This is all into the future, but all the big sports more than likely will have a regional officer for different regions. So those
Right.
opportunities will be there. Council opportunities I already mentioned. And then you have these associations, or the smaller clubs, but those
Hmm.
might be part-time opportunities. So if you're looking to move to regional for sports as such, you might have to work with different associations and do 2 different roles. So you might be somebody working part-time with AFL Monday to Wednesday, and then you might be working part-time with soccer or tennis and their
Okay.
association,
Hmm.
for the remaining 3 days. But even on the bigger scale, you're still working full-time,
Hmm.
but you just have to manage your role. So opportunity wise, definitely it's less. It's probably 5 to 10% of what you will find. That's, again, I don't know have the exact numbers, but I'm just going by. In Melbourne, that's plenty.
Yeah. Must be.
In regional,
Hmm.
in regional it's lesser. But having said that, you still have that option of starting something yourself. Like if you are a good coach yourself, if you are licensed enough, you could look at starting something in regional, which probably even more rewarding than what you might get as a job.
Hmm. Yeah.
Obviously, that and if you want to start something, it has all those things about investing, and you need money, funding, and money to start something yourself. But
Hmm.
that is an option. And community sport being something massive in regional Victoria, there
Hmm.
definitely opportunities. Yeah. and
Right.
and, and again, it depends on what sort of work you need to. Journalism, more than enough opportunities. Sports
Hmm.
journalism, because AFL, I know there's a lot of people, local, what do you call, local businesses that are local sports journalist business. So that opportunities does come up depending
Hmm.
on what what is there. Then there are sports broadcasters. Then there are there are people who just work with sports, like
Right.
we do, the services that we provide to these leagues. There are people like stakeholders that we work with, that work with all the leagues for us, and obviously they are a business themselves, but then they come to us in terms of sporting, designing XYZ things for us
Right.
based on what requirements we give. So opportunities are there, but we definitely cannot compare it with what a
Yeah.
Melbourne or a Sydney would offer.
Yeah. Of course. Hmm. So Shankar, just I think 8 minutes left in this meeting, so I'll just quickly ask the penultimate
Yeah.
question, which is, what three traits would you like say like someone should have in order to excel in the industry?
Yes, I think I mentioned one already, which is passion. And when I say passion, it's absolute passion. You have to have that genuine interest and genuine willingness to be working in that industry, whatever it is, be it sport
Mm-hmm.
or whatever else. If you have got that genuine interest to give back and work, be part of that industry, I think that that will take you a long way.
Right.
Because I still don't feel, I'm saying this in open camera, I still don't feel, as someone who's worked, for 6 years in IT and then now 4 years in sports. So overall, and that includes, that's 2 years of studies in there as well, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the master's degree. So overall, I would have had 12 to 13 years of experience in terms of work experience, I'm saying, after my bachelor's degree. So, but, if you compare what I'm earning now to what somebody is earning in a different industry, who's worked for 5 years just in Australia, I know I'm getting paid less. I know,
Yeah.
but uh, I'm prepared to take that step to maybe take a lesser salary. But then I came here with a purpose to work within the sports industry,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
it will be. I know it will be a fruitful career, but then I'm prepared to actually wait and
Yeah.
take that, do the process, go through the process, and
Hmm.
be part of the journey. So my thing is absolute passion, and willingness to be involved in the sport. Second thing is persistence.
Right.
Has to be there. That, because, like I said, 7 years I was there. I was here. I never traveled back home. I never met my family or loved ones. I could have gone, but at the time I didn't, because I just, the everything fell in place for a reason for me. And then at the time, so I said, no, I'll just make sure everything falls into, the building blocks are starting to build. I just want to wait and then go forward. So persistence would be the second thing. And third thing would be, that's actually a tricky one, because I'm thinking what, um, and third thing I would say would be belief. You have to believe that you can make it, because if you've decided to travel halfway across the world to study
Hmm.
sports management, um, just after 2 years, if you expect to work with Tennis Australia or the biggest sporting bodies and you don't get it, and if you are giving up, then just wasted 2 3 years. You have to have the belief that it will happen, but at the same time, with the persistence and your
Yeah.
passion and your interest, you definitely can make it. It will take some time, but then definitely stick to it, stick to your beliefs, and it will happen. Those would
Right.
be my three.
Oh, wonderful. And Shankar, lastly, what are your future plans, short-term plans, long-term plans? What have you chalked out for yourself?
Well, you know me well enough, Vijeet, that I don't think 3 years to 5 years from now. But yeah, the work that I'm doing now, I'm enjoying the work. Although, like I said, it's not my first sport of preference or choice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the work-wise, it's really good. Uh, so I'll see where this takes me in the future. But at the same time, I'm also coaching and being involved in football, which is soccer, and I'm a licensed coach,
Mm-hmm.
like Asian Football Confederation (AFC) licensed coach, and I'm coaching high performance teams here as well. So I'd like to eventually work with a proper top-end football club or a soccer club, which is professional club. That's my sort of dream job within the sport.
Okay.
So we'll see how we go. But I'm actually, again, the belief is there. I'm persistent with it. I have got persistence in how I approach that. And that's the first steps has been to get my licenses sorted out. And I'm working with high performance teams and stuff in my own capacity while working in the sports industry in a very good role, I would say. Role wise, it's definitely good. Pay wise, I'm not bothered about the payment just yet. So so that's where I am hoping to end up in the long term future in terms of where I want to be working with a professional soccer club.
Right. Shankar, it was lovely catching up with you after a long time, and I really enjoyed listening to you, and it was really an engaging chat as well. I think a few viewers will also find it very useful, especially the aspiring sports management students, and also the ones who are doing the course right now. So I guess they'll find it helpful, and it was again it was lovely catching up with you after a long time.
Yes, and likewise, and thank you for inviting me to this show. And I've been watching the other probably not my batchmates. I think they're your batchmates, but I think just one semester apart, most of them from when I started. So it was lovely like watching and listening to their experiences as well. And what you're doing here, Vijeet, it actually reflects back to what I said about passion. I know you as a person, and what you're doing here. It's not for the financial side of things, but at the same time, you're doing it based out your own interest, and you want to still contribute back to the sporting landscape in whatever capacity it is. So this is what I mean by passion and your interest. Genuine interest has to be there. Otherwise, I know the amount of effort you put in to put these videos together in terms of the edits and whatnot. So this is what one would require if they are looking to get into the industry and then continue their journey within the industry, whatever industry it is.
Yeah,
we are talking about sport, but it applies to whatever industry it is. So thank you for doing something like this, and for the invitation as well. So, and I'm more than happy, if people do reach out to yourself, I'm more than happy for you to give them my email address or phone number, and more than happy for them to have a chat if they are looking for some sort of guidance or help. So more than happy. So thank you.
No worries, my pleasure, Shankar, and thanks for the kind words.
It's all good, man. All good.
No worries. So that's all for this episode. If you like the video, do like it and do subscribe to the channel for more such videos ahead. Until next time, bye bye.